Hello and welcome. I'm excited. We have a little collaboration going on today. Also, side note, I just fed my cat Elsa because I didn't want her to be loud because she's hungry whilst, we're doing this, but she's still going absolutely bonkers. So she might be noisy in the background, but it's fine. It's fine. Amazing. Let's wait for people to join. And there's Hillary. Hello, my love. I'm going to let Hillary in a moment. There she is. Okay. Going freaking crazy. Did this work? Accept. Oh, something is happening.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
There we are. Yes, I can hear you. Good to see you. Awesome. It's always weird with these Instagram lives. It's like sometimes things are just off. Good to have you here. How are you feeling?
We made it.
Yeah, we made it. How are you feeling?
Pretty good.
Good.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. I've got my tea. I thought we could get nice and cozy because we'll have a really good chat. Elsa's going absolutely wild in the background, so okay. Apologies for that. It's a bit of a theme, right? When I was on your podcast, it was the same. She was like, yeah, but anyways, for those of you who are currently joining, hello everyone. I am really excited for this topic, and I think Hillary's probably too. Hillary and I have done a few collaborations years ago when we were both baby coaches, and I've been on her podcast. If you don't know her, you should absolutely check out her work, check out her YouTube channel, check out her podcasts. Really, really good. She has some amazing guests and covers amazing topics. And I'll link all of that in the caption once we share the post. But the topic that I really wanted to dive into with you that we haven't ever discussed, we both discussed it sort of separately a little bit. You've shared your story and your journey a bit, and I have shared mine a little bit. But I thought we could really get a good flow going on the topic of manifesting relationships, specifically romantic relationships, specifically healthy love. Because I think both of us have been through a bit of a journey with that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So I would just like to let it flow for both of us to kind of share our stories, where we began in terms of manifestation when it comes to relationships, because I know you were on the whole manifesting a specific person journey, and then that turned out to be quite toxic, and you got out of that, and now you have a beautiful, healthy, conscious love. So you did it. So yeah, I would love to start there if you just want to share your story of, how your journey began, first of all, with manifesting someone specific and how that all unfolded, and then we can go into where you are now.
Sure. So I think it's best to start with like a pattern that I had previous, where before I even knew about like law of assumption. I'm getting like an echo. 1 second. I'm just gonna like turn this down or something. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I had a pattern from when I came into like teens or whatever, from needing male attention, needing male validation. And so I had this pattern of like just constantly needing that attention and love from outside of me, and mainly from men. And yeah, and I didn't really realize that I was in this pattern until the toxic relationship blew up. So looking back, I recognized that I was constantly seeking for that external validation to make me feel worthy and loved and okay. So yeah, it was this constant like long-term relationships. And then when I was single, just dating and like just being crazy, like literally just like fuckboys, just like terrible like behavior. It's, I mean, whatever. It's fun in the moment, but then when you look back, it's like you're not getting, it doesn't fulfill your cup like the way that you think it might, you know. So anyway, that was like a pattern that was going on, and then I was single for like quite a while, after between like a long-term relationship, and I came across on YouTube, law of assumption, you know, Neville Goddard stuff. And it really, the good thing about it is that it really made like a manifestation make sense to me. Like I knew about law of attraction since I was a teenager. My grandma was really into spirituality and
Look who
manifestation.
just joined.
Yeah, he told me he's gonna join. My man.
Hello. The famous one.
What's that?
The famous one.
Oh yeah.
The reason we're here. Okay, yeah, continue.
Hi, Joe. Okay, anyway, let's make sure I don't get thrown off here. What was I saying?
Sorry.
What was I saying?
You were saying that you found law of assumption and that manifestation that made sense to you.
Goddard stuff. Yeah. So the good thing about like getting into that YouTube, like finding this like, I don't know, rabbit hole of coaches on YouTube talking about Neville Goddard's work and law of assumption, which, yeah, like I said, my grandma introduced me to spirituality when I was younger. And so like I already like I knew about law of attraction, but I didn't understand how to like connect the dots and make it work really that much. I believed it deep down, but I didn't really understand like that it starts within. Like I didn't really get that until I came across like Neville Goddard's work, and that was through YouTube coaches. But the other part of that is manifesting a specific person, and there's a huge niche on YouTube about this and Instagram, about manifesting a specific person. And it's just like, okay, like you can, the way that you show up will reflect, other people will reflect the way that you show up. And like I still believe that, but then there's also a nuanced part of it where it's like it's lack mindset to like only need the love to come in the specific package of this specific person. And like, yeah, that's what I realized afterwards. But yeah, so it was very enticing. It's like, okay, like I can just create my perfect person. Like I'm just gonna like write a list of everything that I want. And I didn't realize it, but when I wrote the list, it was all like mostly materialistic stuff and like what they look like, what they do, like just how does it look on the outside, kind of like nothing on the list was like, I want to feel genuinely like loved and cared for. And like, it wasn't like when I wrote the list, it was more like, okay, this is what my partner, like, this is what my partner is.
Yeah.
And so
not how he treats you or anything.
Yeah, nothing like that. And so, I manifested this person that hit pretty much everything on the list except eye color. And I was like, okay, like this is the person. And so, and I don't know, like it just went on for like 2.5 years, and it was so toxic. Like but the thing, like looking back, obviously, but then when you're in it, it's not all bad. Like I have to say that because otherwise you obviously wouldn't stay for that long. Like obviously you laugh together and you have good times, but like overall it was disrespecting myself to stay with this person. But because I was so into manifesting a specific person, and then now I have like along this journey, I have my own YouTube channel talking about manifesting a specific person. So then that was part of it. It was like, okay, I can't leave because like I'm in it, like I'm talking about this stuff, so I have to like make this work. Like it has to work. Like, and I will say that he did reflect things. Like I would affirm for engagement or marriage, and he got down on one knee 5 times in 6 months as a joke, like because he was just like joking all the time. But it, like looking back, like that's fucked up. But anyways, like what the fuck. But like it was just like little reflections that happen. Like whatever I'm like thinking of or whatever I'm affirming, like he is reflecting it, but it's so distorted because you're not coming at it from like a place of wholeness. It's just like it's so chaotic because you're just gonna get whatever energy that you're holding inside. And I wasn't even just being with him, that energy of like disrespecting myself because of the just because of the toxicity and because of like the stuff he would say, and like he would like put me down and things like that. And just like when you're putting up with that to try to like create something better, but it's like it needs to be this person, it was just like it was very contradictory, and it was never consistent or safe, or like I never felt safe. Like I never felt safe in his presence, just like everything, like it just wasn't right. But I just ignored myself and ignored a bunch of red flags and ignored so much because I had my YouTube channel and because I was like, no, this is gonna work. Like, people will reflect you and you show up differently. And like, yeah, so like there were reflections, but again, it's not people were reflected, but it wasn't like this wasn't aligned. It wasn't aligned. And I just ignored that. But anyway,
Yeah.
so and then it just was so, it got really toxic and like horrible. But like we would break up, get back together, and I just like prayed for help. I was like, I cannot, like, please, I can't live like this anymore. Like, this is so awful. Like, I just like literally prayed to the universe. I prayed to God, like, please send me a sign. Like, I need like a clear sign. And then it all blew up. So like nothing I could ignore. Like, it just blew up so much in my face. Like, he was seeing somebody else for like the last 3 months of a relationship, and like it was so awful. And it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, just like a terrible ending that blew up in my face. But obviously, looking back, it's a blessing because I needed it
Yeah.
clearly to get that bad for me to get out. Yeah, and then once I exited that,
Let's
he was,
take a
yeah,
pause here because there's just a few points that I just want to call
yeah,
out that the people listening and watching this might, you know, might want to land. So the first thing was, you know, you had a pattern for a long time that you hadn't seen, but I even remember when we met, you were speaking about that pattern. So you'd already been aware of it. You just didn't connect it to the relationship you
right,
were in that moment.
yeah,
So, you know, that's the first thing. It's a pattern that repeated over and over again, and it's unconscious, right? It's not something that you're consciously aware
yeah,
of. And you keep manifesting the same stuff based on your internal, in that case, you know, desire for love and lack of self-worth, right? Like lack of giving that to yourself. The second piece that you mentioned, and this is kind of an interesting one because a lot of the people watching this will be, you know, into manifestation, law of assumption. And, you know, with that whole specific person thing, we can go into that topic a bit more later on. But there were two elements here. Number one, you can really get obsessive because people tell you this is how it works, and then you start questioning yourself when it doesn't exactly manifest the way you want, right? So that was another piece. So you probably stayed attached to this person a lot longer than you would have in other
yeah,
scenarios. Now, as you said, it's a blessing in disguise because you actually learned a lot and you were able to break that pattern through that experience.
yeah,
um, the other element is, which I find very interesting and which I can resonate with in a different context, is your work, right? You are a coach as well, so you have a YouTube channel, and there was almost like this resistance to letting this go because there's a desire to uphold an identity that you are
yeah,
holding on to. And
absolutely,
I think whilst not everybody watching this will be a coach, obviously, most people won't be. There is something about we connect our identity to a specific person, to a relationship, to a thing, to a desire. And that is what makes it so hard to let go, which really brings out the importance of self-concept and identity work, because it's only when we're able to release that identity that, and to really surrender to that and not hold on, cling on to this old identity, that we're actually able to see clearly and see, actually, this is not for me and I'm better off letting this go. And the last piece then I want to point out is what you said at the end. It had to get really, really bad for you in order for you to get out of it. And something that I often tell my clients, nobody likes hearing this, but I often say, I sometimes, like, I hope that your worst fear actually comes true. And this is a hard thing, like, to say or to hear, and obviously I don't wish that for anybody really, but sometimes when we face the worst case scenario, the thing we didn't think would ever happen, the thing we didn't think we could handle, we realize, oh, we can handle it, and now we can move forward, and now we can put ourselves back together, and we can actually go for the desires that we truly, truly wanted in the first place. Yeah, so I
yeah.
just wanted to add all that.
And also, like, if you're, like, for it to get that bad, like, you're putting up with something, 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 you're allowing something that doesn't align for so long, and it's like, yeah, sometimes you just need it to, like, push you over the edge, because like your intuition is telling you knock knock knock, telling you knock knock knock, and you're just like, no, I don't hear it, I don't hear it. But like bang, like the door fucking breaks down, and then it's like you can't ignore it. Like it just, if you don't listen to the little light knocks, then it's gonna blow up. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot. Something similar happened to me. I'll share that later. But yeah, continue your story. What happened after?
Yeah, so then once that ended, he was, so just for context, like I don't know, I used to not like this word, but like he's full, like the textbook narcissist. Like he is the meaning of that word. Like I don't, he's like, it's scary. But anyways, like I used to not like that word. So it's like, don't put labels on people because you'll manifest it. But it's like literally like I didn't even know what that was, or that I would ever manifest that into my life. But like, yeah, he was that. And so like the only way for that usually is like no contact. So like after it blew up, it was like I never spoke to him again after that. Um, so yeah, so then it was just like, it was like a few days of like, it was pretty hard. And then after that, I just like felt so relieved and like, like, wow, this energy is really heavy. And this energy was really like holding me back in so many different ways. Yeah. And then after that happened, I did go back into that same pattern of wanting validation from out there. And like, I found myself like looking for it, like in men still. And then it became so apparent because the type of people that were being attracted, just, I don't know, like, I don't want to be rude, but it just like the type of people that were being like drawn in from this energy were just like, it was so starkly obvious to me that they weren't the like caliber of person that I want to align myself with. Like, they were just so like, okay, this was like, maybe rude, but like he just like, he would like live with his mom and like in a small apartment, and like just, it's messy and he doesn't clean, and it's just like, I'm like, what is happening? Like this is this is not like, anyway. So it would just be like that, and then I really couldn't unsee the pattern. Like I kind of knew the pattern, but it was kind of like, okay. But then it was like, this is disgusting, and I cannot with it anymore. Like I literally just cannot with myself. Like that version of myself, just I cannot. Like I just couldn't stand it anymore. And yeah, and then I just made a firm, energetic decision to no longer allow anyone in my field that doesn't align. So I just, and for me, this was like a very difficult thing in the moment, because like there will be like temptation or whatever, and I'm just like having to say no so many times to like make that firm boundary of like, I will literally be by myself, and I will literally not go on any dates, I will not talk to anybody, like no, nothing. Like it just had to be like, for me it was just like, I am not letting anyone in my space until I feel like it's like the right person. And I will literally wait 5 years for that if I have to. Like, what's the worst case scenario? I'm like the cool aunt or whatever, and like I never never have a relationship. Like accepting the worst case outcome where like I have to be alone. Like, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna love my life and love myself, and like just vibe with myself and make my life fun, and just not like, I don't need that. Like I just realized I don't need it. And yeah, just choosing to be alone and to feel worthy from within myself with, and yeah, and I think a huge catalyst for the change was the energetic decision to no longer just no longer allow, because what you allow will continue. So I just like never, no more. Like it was hard, but within 4 weeks, literally 4 weeks of making that firm decision of like, okay, I'm not talking to anybody, I'm not entertaining anything, I'm not on dating apps, I'm not looking, nothing. 4 weeks from making that decision, literally, my partner, like my current partner, he found me on Instagram, and like it's just so crazy. Like I one thing I did do is like I wrote down like some things, some ways that I want to feel, rather than like just superficial things. It was like, hey, I want to feel heard, I want to feel safe, I want to feel like it's like coming home, I want to feel like it's like when you know kind of thing. Like it was like more of that kind of feel of the list. And I also did not want to go looking. I was like, he's gonna find me. And then he literally, one of my reels showed up in his For You page on Instagram, and yeah, and then he was like, well, do you live in Victoria? And I was like, yeah. And he had a private profile, so it was just sort of like, anyway, he was really persistent over a while, and I was just like, who is this guy? Like whatever. But then we finally went for a walk, and yeah, so then within 2 weeks it was like we fell in love. And so it was just like, and it's the complete opposite. Like it's I've never had, like a conscious relationship, somebody who makes me feel like listened to, like it's hard to explain, but it's just like, it's very refreshing. My best friend is like just very comfortable, like we've known each other for so long. We've only known each other 5 months, but it's like I feel like we've been together for like years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your story. That was so beautiful. And yeah, like just to break that apart again, like I need to do this. Just to break this apart a little more. One thing that you mentioned, which like really stands out to me, is you got tired of your own bullshit. And
Yeah.
that is often what I say to my clients, or when people come to me and are like, okay, I'm now fucking ready to do the work. They just get tired of their own bullshit. And that's often the point that you need to reach before you actually take action, because we can keep ourselves so comfortable in what's familiar, even though it's the opposite of what we want. And sometimes we need to actually hit that point where, I always like to say, you either need the pain of where you are to get big enough for you to want to get out of it, or you need to get the desire to get so big that you have no other choice than to create a change and to take action. So that's exactly what happened for you, right? You were like, I am done with my own stuff, and I am stopping this, and this is what I'm available for, this is what I'm not available for, and you really stuck to it. So well done on that. And then the other two elements that really stand out to me that you did, which manifested this so effortlessly, is number one, you had a clear vision. And that vision, as you said, wasn't based on superficiality, but it's an authentic soul desire. You really like spoke to your soul, this is what I want, and you got super really clear on it. I looked on your profile, I saw that you shared the list, and it is very, very clear. It's simple, but it's clear. And the third thing you did was, and that's shadow work. That was a perfect example of shadow work that you did there. You were like, what is the worst case scenario? And you really sat with that and you allowed that. And for some people that is incredibly painful and uncomfortable, because it can bring up all this unworthiness stuff, right? Which to me, it sounds like you had already worked through a lot of that through the experiences before, which will not be the case for everybody. But when you're able to really be with the worst case scenario and really allow that and really let that fuel you, but also not resist it, that's when things can start slowly integrating. And you met yourself with so much love and so much acceptance and so much surrender, which is really commendable and really, really beautiful. So, because I remember actually before you two met, and when you had just ended your abusive relationship, you had just gotten out of it, and I know we had a conversation and you were still, that were all the feels. And not long after, like you said, it was just a few days that you were really in it, and then you felt the relief. Like the power you stepped into was just so beautiful to observe, because like the energy was like, you could tell like this woman just is confident AF. She believes in herself, she loves herself, and that shows, and that energy does not lie.
Thanks, Lorena.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, I want to go back to the like the worst case scenario thing, because when we're like, there's a fear of like an outcome. So in my case, it's like, I'm never going to find the one. Like, I'm just never, like, I'm going to be stuck in this pattern with people that just like lie and cheat and like don't care about me and don't see me, my value. Like, I'm just going to be stuck in this pattern for that. Or I'll just be alone. I was like, okay, well, like, I'm not going to do that anymore. So then the worst case scenario is like, I'm just alone until like, and then I'll never find a person. So that's like the worst case scenario, like outcome, I won't find my person.
Yeah.
Is that true? Like, is that really true? Or is that just like a fear, like
Brené Brown vibes, Byron Katie vibes?
Yeah. Like, is it true? Whatever. Like, no, it's not. Like, there's someone for everyone. Like, you can choose to believe in healthy love, right? And so, yeah, just like breaking down the fear, like, is it true? And if that were to happen, would you die?
Yeah.
Like, no, you're gonna be okay. So yeah, just breaking down the resistance, because when you got a fear about like an outcome, and you're really like you have a lot of energy that's caught up in that fear and that outcome. And so like what you
Resistance.
focus on grows.
Yeah.
Yeah, resistance. So like what you focus on grows. So like if you're still focusing on that you're like, avoiding this crazy scary outcome, like once you accept it and just be like, okay, look right at it in the eyes, like look it dead in the eyes and be like, I'm not afraid of you. Like I would be totally fine. Like I will be alone until I find this person. I don't care how long it freaking takes.
Yeah.
Just the yeah. I think it's so important to like really look at the worst case scenario and just make sure that you're yeah. Just one of my favorite quotes for manifestation is by Florence Scovel Shinn, and it's, your ships sail in on I don't care sea. So like if you are so fixated on something, you're pushing that, you're holding things. So yeah, just let it flow. Your ships sail in on I don't care sea. Once you no longer, it's like, no, I am good where I'm at. I love myself where I'm at. Yeah, that's the magic energy right there.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a big aspect of shadow work, right? Like it's really facing your fears as well and like integrating those. And, you just said it so simply, and that is, a lot of what it is. And it doesn't, it's not that simple in practice, right? Because when you actually face that fear, whatever the fear is, like that was your example, but when you actually sit with that and face that, it can be incredibly painful because it can bring up traumas actually from way back that you may not be ready to sit with, that you may not feel safe to sit with. So, if anybody's watching and is like, oh, that's all I need to do, then why do I struggle with this? This is why it's difficult, because there's so much resistance in our systems, because we're wired to avoid the pain. And if we really face the worst case scenarios and the worst fears, we have to be with the pain, because we have to feel the grief of that actually coming true. And I did something very similar in different contexts. I did this when my cat Otis was really ill. Like, I'm sure you remember, like I really felt the grief and the loss of him already being gone. So I could get to a sense of peace. And from that place, I could actually manifest his remission, which was pretty miraculous. And I also did this in a similar context. It was, I sat with the fear of dying alone and being eaten by my cat. That was the actual fear.
Oh my God.
Like that was like a few years ago. I had like some loneliness coming up, and I was like, really need to integrate this. I really need to be with this, because it was projecting out into my relationships also, and it didn't feel good. And I was like, I really uncovered it and explored it, and I was like, what's actually underneath this? And the statement that came out was like, you're gonna die alone and nobody's gonna know, and you're gonna be all alone at home, and your cat is gonna eat you and nobody will know. That was what pretty dark, but that's but I really actually sat with that like pretty seriously. And I was like, well, I hope if I die my cat eats me, because otherwise it's gonna starve. So, like it actually came to a place where I was like, oh yeah, it's fine, and that allowed me to release that also. And that was at a time where I had to let go of a lot of friendships, a lot of relationships. And from there was a period where I was alone and where that had to be okay. And then came a period where suddenly I found my tribe and the right people came in. So, it's that release of resistance that can be incredibly powerful. So I love that, you shared that aspect of your journey, because it's incredibly important.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. So, yeah, I'll just touch on a few things that I experienced, because I won't go too deep into it because there are similarities in our stories. And then I would love to dive a bit more into different aspects. I would love to dive with you into, how you think self-worth and relationships connect, and also on the whole manifesting a specific person topic. I would love to explore that a little bit as well. So for me, my story is not exactly the same. I wasn't exactly in an abusive relationship. And I'm also currently single by choice for the first time ever in my life, actually.
Best.
Yeah, it's like I never got to appreciate it, but I'll get to that later. So I actually have a very different upbringing story. I also had a lot of unworthiness, a lot of, looking for external validation. But for me, that didn't manifest in getting into unhealthy dynamics. It manifested in never having any. It manifested in me basically being the perpetually single girl who wanted nothing more than a relationship, but that somehow could make it happen, never got chosen, those kind of things. Truly, I was emotionally unavailable, but that is something that you only realize in retrospect, right? So I made all of that mean that something must be inherently wrong with me, right? And like no one must love me. I must not be lovable. I must be ugly. All of those things. So there's a lot wound up in it because I had some things in my upbringing about praise and having to be first best, and it didn't just manifest in relationships. It manifested in school. It manifested in friendships, like anywhere really. But that was sort of how how things started for me. And then I had a phase, and I don't think I ever spoke about this. I had a phase in I think it was in like my early or mid 20s, where the belief that I was never going to find love, this was obviously way before I found out about manifestation and things. The belief that I was never going to find love got so strong that I genuinely gave up on it, and that I just looked for, let Instagram not kick me off, intimacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how strict they are here. So I for like honestly a couple of years went completely out of my body, to be honest, because that was so out of alignment, so out of integrity with who I am. I've never been like a one night stand or a like casual kind of person, but I made myself to be that way because I believed that was the only way that I could get some resemblance of love. Pretty sad, right? And then one of those one night stands, well, there's a lot more in that because I actually consciously manifested that person without even knowing I was doing it. But I was like, I want that one, and it happened. But one of those one night stands turned out to be a person, and we really clicked, and it was a connection like I'd never experienced it. But it also wasn't like intense love bombing or anything of this like typical narcissist stuff. It wasn't anything like that. And even now that I'm looking back, I'm like, that relationship was unhealthy. It wasn't inherently like, he wasn't a bad person. He wasn't toxic. He wasn't malicious. It wasn't as clear cut. But that turned into a pretty like a 5-year long on and off thing. There were moments where it was like soulmate beautiful and best friends, and I'm always going to have this person in my life. And there were moments where the pain was unbearable because things weren't working out and the communication was off. And then it came through because he had a lot of trauma that he dealt with, that he ended up developing an addiction. And he became, well, he probably always was, but he really became an active addict, and developed a very bad relationship with alcoholism, which was the perfect mirror to all of my unworthiness, because I turned, of course, into the rescuer, and I turned into how, like, how can I make this okay for him? So I essentially began to regulate my nervous system through him. Like, if he is okay, then I'm okay. If things are okay with him, then I'm okay. Otherwise, I'm not okay. Which is codependency. That is classic codependency, which I didn't realize by that point, I had also entered like a spiritual journey, a manifestation journey. And the thing is, on a spiritual journey in the beginning, and you see this a lot in the manifestation world, your ego will jump on it. Your ego will be the first thing that goes, ooh, spirituality. I can improve things. I can improve myself. And we develop this spiritual ego. And I think the manifestation community is particularly, it's particularly prominent there because it's about desires, right? Whereas like other spiritual paths are more like, don't desire, don't attach. Manifestation is very much like you are in control. And there's obviously truth to this. I do believe we can manifest anything that we desire, but it does need, as you said earlier, it does need to come from a whole and integrated place, and it can't come from a place of ego and trying to control your circumstances just because you're not happy otherwise, or just because you're looking for something that is lacking within you. But that was exactly what I was doing. And to the problem wasn't that similar to you. To an extent, it really worked. Like, it actually really, really worked. And that was sort of the problem, that it ended up working. And you okay?
Sorry, it just, my thing said I'm got my time limit for Instagram, so I just had to turn it off, and then I couldn't hear you for a second. Anyway, sorry.
Is everything okay? Did I lose her? No. Yeah. So basically, where was I? Keep losing my train of thought. Yeah. So like the manifestations worked. Like he showed up exactly that way, and it actually turned into a beautiful connection. I did some reflection on like the good and the bad, and I actually looked at it, and I was like, the good actually outweighs the bad, but it was still not aligned. And eventually something very similar happened in my case as to what happened with you, which is it had to get so bad, like the pain had to get so bad that I had no choice other than to walk away. Which, I was also like, it's funny because you're then in the place of like, why is the pain, why does it have to be that bad? But it got that bad gradually, right? You get all the signs, like you say, you disregard your intuition, and that's when it gets that bad, because if you don't listen to your truth, is you're gonna get the same lesson over and over again until you listen. So eventually I did walk away, and it was the most painful and the most beautiful experience of my life, because it got me to a level of self-love that I did not know was even possible. It really catapulted me into a healing journey that made me dig up everything from my past, every pattern that I'd had. I was working with a mentor at the time as well, who was like such a beautiful space holder, and who held such a safe space for me, because like that is the thing, when you sit with like these heavy emotions and these heavy patterns, like it needs to be safe. If you're just like talking to your friends about this, or you're trying to do it all inside, like it can get, I would not have been able to do it because it was that painful. But all of this actually got me into such a sense of embodied self-worth that I did not know possible. And it got me to a place where now I'm actually like single by choice, which was something that I never thought I'd ever want. And obviously I'm not in a place where I'm like, I'm going to be single forever. I also eventually desire a partnership, but I don't feel like I want that right now. And that feels almost foreign to me, to be in a place where I don't actually want it right now. That being said, I took, after that relationship ending, some really intentional time by myself. And I was like, similar to what you did, actually. I was like, I'm not gonna, I need to heal. That was my thing. Your intention was more like, this is what I'm available for. Mine was more like, I need to heal. I need to nourish myself, and I need to give myself that space and that time, because of how much this actually impacted me traumatized me. And I gave myself that time. And when I started slowly dating again, and I did it so slowly, I'm still doing it very, very slowly, very, very intentionally. I do date right now, even though I want to be single, but it's so slow and it's so intentional. And the men that are coming into my life, it's actually insane. There was not a single person that was not high quality. Like there was not a single person that didn't tick all the boxes, right? The only boxes that would not be ticked would be like, I don't want it right now, and then maybe I'm not feeling like a big spark or something that I'm like looking for almost chemically, right? But the it was all like perfect, safe people, people I feel good with, people I feel attracted to, people with all of the green flags. And it's so interesting that when you actually step so much into the self-worth and you love yourself so deeply, and you, how do I put this, you kind of, you just get to such a deep place of integration and embodiment, and you essentially you transform your self concept, not through like mentally thinking this is the person I want to be, but actually through integrating the pieces within you that don't align with it. And what then happens is you become freaking magnetic, and you automatically become only available to the things you actually want. And it doesn't, you know, you made a choice and then you manifested it. For me, it's almost like I didn't make the choice of like, this is what I'm available for, this is what I'm not available for, but it's still like, at least not consciously, but it's almost like my energy repels everything that's not that. And that just happens so naturally through this process of integration. And yeah, I highly recommend it. Yeah.
I love that so much. It's such a powerful place to be, to choose to be in your own energy, and just
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's a really powerful place to be.
Yeah, and it's so interesting for me as well because it's new, and it's something that I never thought I would consciously choose, right? Like because I'd been single for most of my life, and you know, I'd always not wanted to be, and now to actually look at it and be like, oh, this is actually what I'm choosing right now. And also at the same time being in a place where I'm like, I know when I stop choosing that, it's gonna happen. And it's not this place where I was before, which was like, what if it never happens? What if I'm not lovable? And now it's like, I don't want it right now. And I know that when I am ready, it's going to show up like
It's
this.
so,
And
go ahead.
yeah,
It's
no,
just
that's
so,
basically it.
it's just like so funny because everything's just perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
the way that, because you're saying before, like you're the chronic single one or whatever, and it didn't feel good. It's because the perspective is like, I'm not okay and I'm unworthy if I don't have a partner. But now you know that you're worthy,
Mm-hmm.
and you know your true value, and the perspective shift on being alone is completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing like for my pattern of needing external validation out there from men, which stems from childhood of not having a present father growing up in my case, and needing it from out there, and like the yeah, it just being by myself and not having that attention
Yeah.
it meant something about me. It's a perspective of like, I'm not okay and I'm not worthy unless I have a man telling me that I am. And then
Yeah.
realizing that no, actually, I don't, like, who are these people? Like, who are they? They don't know me. They don't even know who I am. Like, I say who's like, are you worthy to be in my space?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really flipping it around. Like that whole, like, with searching for a partner, it's like coming at it from the energy of unworthiness. Is like, oh, I hope they like me on this date. Like, I really
Mm-hmm.
hope that, like, oh, like, I better look the best that I can look because, like, want them to like me, and just like hope they like me energy. And then when you flip it around and it's like, actually, like, you need to
I get to
qualify
choose.
that person to be in your energy. Like, are they qualified to be in my energy? And that perspective shift alone is like, yeah, super
Yeah.
powerful.
It is, and it comes also with like a shift in how you then handle rejection, because then rejection suddenly isn't, oh, I'm not good enough. It's then suddenly like, oh, good, they were not aligned with me. Thank God they're out of my field, right? But what you said as well about, yes, it is perspective, it is perception. But I think what's really important is it's not like up here, because you can tell yourself, I am the prize and I am worthy and I am loved and lovable.
But then you feel not okay.
Yeah. But then exactly, your feeling and how you show up and your energy and your embodiment are not in alignment with that. And that's what I see a lot of people do, right? Like I get so many people who come to me who are like, I know I'm worthy and still this is manifesting. And what that is that self-worth is not integrated, is not embodied. So it's not that you don't know, right? But it's, do you actually feel it? And that perspective shift is subtle, but it's important to remember that it's not mental, because I think otherwise people are like, well, if I shift my perspective and then it's still not working, why is that? And I think that's why, because it's so energetic and it's not just like a, you know, words in your head, basically.
You have to like really fully energetically commit to that that feeling or that version.
Yeah. And it requires you to really, you know, almost take apart everything that's not that, and you know, peel off those layers. Yeah. Since we now spoke about self-worth and relationships, that's already covered, but I would love to briefly speak about your thoughts, and my thoughts, I guess, as well, on the whole concept of manifesting a specific person, especially after the experience that you've now had. I would love to hear if that has shifted your attitude towards this, or you know, what your perspective now is.
Yeah, so like right when I came out of the toxic relationship, that was the person that I was, the specific person that I was trying to manifest. It just kind of, I don't know, it's evolved. So like when I came out of that, it was sort of like, oh, like I can't even talk about this anymore. Like I feel almost like a fraud for even like talking about it. And like, I don't know, just my perspective on it now is that like, obviously it works. Like you can manifest whatever, but like only your higher self or God or universe knows what the perfectly aligned match for you is. We think in our ego mind, like in my example, it was so like, when I wrote the list, it was so materialistic and just came from ego. It's like, oh, this will make me look good, right? Or like
status.
Yeah, status. Yeah. It was like coming from a place of like, hey, like what it was so ego based. Like this is like the partner that will like make me look good, not make me feel good, like, or be totally aligned. So anyway, like coming from an ego place, like I feel like a lot of manifesting a specific person comes from that place. It doesn't always have to, but like if you're so fixated on it being a specific person, like because I feel like that word can mean different things. Like if you could manifest a specific person and not have someone specific in mind, but you're just like writing a list and trying to manifest your person. But like in the case of like manifesting a person who's not showing up how you deserve or how you want, to change how they're showing up. So like I think that is possible, but I also think like you have to let intuition play the main role, because if you're going against your intuition and you're like in your ego and going against your higher self or your intuition, and you're trying to force and fix and morph this reality, this person to show up, like obviously it can happen, and obviously like anything is possible. Like who am I to say like what is or isn't possible for somebody? But like only you know in your own intuition, your own heart, like whether it's right for you or not. So like I just don't think that I don't think it's the end all be all. I just think like that letting it up to God or letting it up to the universe to bring you the perfect match, because you can't see what like God can see around corners, that saying. Like you can't see the full picture. You just can't. Like we think that we know what we need or what we want, but like just letting go of the control and letting God, like, or the universe or whatever, orchestrate it for you, and not be so like fixated on like it being a certain way, because I feel like that's lack mindset, honestly. Like, okay, this person here that's in my small field of energy, this that I can see, like, just the universe is so vast, and all we see is like what's right in front of us. And it's like, oh, I need this person over here that's right in front of me. I'm latching on to that, and that person needs to give me love, and they need to show up a certain way. And that's that person over there that I can see, even though there's billions of people in the world, this person here needs to show up the exact way that I need them. And it's like, it's lack mindset, in my opinion. Like, if you're not open to it being somebody else, like someone else could bring you out, like things that you don't even like you kind of even dream of it. Like, you could be in such an aligned relationship that you never dreamed of, because you're so you're busy fixated on this person that's like treating you like jerk. Like, I don't know. I just like, I think like it can work. And like, obviously, like in real life, people break up and people get back together and they live happily ever after. That is a thing. So like, sometimes it can work, sure. But I also think like, if it feels like you're going against your own intuition, then you need to listen to that. I think that's just like, in my experience, like I just ignored my intuition for so long because I was trying to maintain an image. And it did not end well for me. So that's my 2 cents on it at the moment.
Interesting. Maintaining an image. Yeah. I think it's a very nuanced topic. I don't think it's black and white. I agree on the lack mindset, because obviously not only are we restricting ourselves, not just with a specific person, but with anything where we get like too kind of zoned in, it comes from fear. It comes from, well, if it's not that, then I'm going to be alone, right? It comes back to that. Because this is the closest that I have experienced to it. When I was actually going through my breakup, my coach at the time said, well, what happens when we're in an abusive relationship, I think that one will resonate with you. It's like we're so hungry and we have this chocolate cake that's like really delicious. That's the abusive relationship. But you eat that cake and you throw up. Like, it makes you really, really ill.
That's such a good example.
But because you're so freaking hungry and there's nothing else to eat, at least that you're seeing, you keep eating the cake even though it makes you sick, because you are not aware that there's a delicious chocolate cake out there that makes you feel really freaking good at the same time. And that analogy to me is like really perfect. And I think the people who are attached to somebody for the wrong reasons, because I'm going to get into it a little bit as well when I think it can actually work to manifest a specific person. But people who are like so attached and narrow-minded are often just so hungry for love. And it's the only path they are seeing at the moment. So there's no shame in it, right? Like, there's no judgment in it, but that is why. And yeah, so I agree on that, fear-based and lack mindset completely. I also think like when it comes, so what I do like in my work with clients is kind of similar to what you said as well, with, getting so clear on what it actually is that you want and then being open to possibility. But we really do a lot of like integrating the ego and getting really clear on when are you operating from your ego, which desire is actually coming from your ego. And that is often a process that takes time, and then really creating a clear vision on what you want, and all of that coming together. I can tell you, every freaking time, every client I've had who's wanted to manifest love, there have been 2 outcomes to that process. Either the desire for the specific person got so clear and the doubt faded away and it happened, right? And then it happened immediately because the resistance dropped, because the doubt wasn't anymore of like, oh, should I not want this? Is this not right for me? It was aligned. Or the flip side of that, they realized it wasn't a true desire from the beginning, and then they were able to let it go. Obviously, not just by saying, I'll let it go. That was a process too. But, like it's either of these 2 outcomes when you actually get complete clarity on your desire and you get really familiar with your ego. Now, when it comes to, there's another piece here as well that I see people do. There's a bit of a pattern as well that some people jump from person to person, which is kind of the opposite lack side of that, right? Like some
Mm-hmm.
people get so attached to a specific person and they, stay attached and they try to manifest them sometimes for years. And, it doesn't work or it backfires, and then, they stay attached. Other people just jump from person to person and manifest the same pattern, which I guess is what you manifested in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before it all showed up for you. Um, and that's when we kind of manifest the same person just with a different face, because we haven't actually changed ourselves. We have just looked for that validation outside of ourselves. And often when people try to manifest a specific person, it comes from them trying to prove something to themselves also, right? Like, oh, if I can do this, then I'm clearly worthy of love.
Yeah.
Because I can get the person who's obviously not in love with me right now to love me, well, then I've won.
Yeah.
Like, then I'm special.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also think it is, and I have seen it work. And actually it's worked for me also. Like, it can absolutely work to manifest, let's say, an ex back. But what needs to happen, and this is really important, what needs to happen for that to work, you can't try to change the person. You can only change yourself, and you can change the relationship dynamic, but you cannot change the person. As soon as you're going into, I'm trying to change that person, it will backfire.
Yeah.
And the other piece is it needs to be a new relationship. So that ex that you had, if you want to manifest him back, you need to let that, like, that relationship as it was, go anyway. You need to grieve it anyway, and you need to come back together with that ex as if it was a completely new person and a completely new relationship, because otherwise you're just going to fall back into the same pattern. And I think that is something that a lot of people just never do. And it's hard to do as well, right? Which is why it's often easier to just move on. But that is so key. It's always going to be a fresh start, and you have to feel the pain and the grief regardless. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
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 Do you have anything to add to any of that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in my case, I would never want to manifest my ex back.
I mean, obviously, yeah.
It's best left in the past. But yeah, I mean, letting go and forgiveness for yourself, for the situation, for the, like, whatever the person's past mistakes are, like, whether you want to be with them again or not, is only gonna, like, propel you forward. Because when you're, like, holding on to resentment or blaming that person, I mean, that's something that I'm still trying to do, is, like, let go and forgive and, like, see the innocence. Like, I try to, like, with my ex, I try, like, I'm not like, obviously I'm in a healthy, loving relationship, but, like, the memories will come up and it's, like, really like traumatic and stuff. So, like, letting it go and trying to, like, just put it in the past. But, like, seeing, like, a really good tool for anybody, like, if you're angry at somebody or, like, you have resentment for somebody, is to try to see them as, like, a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old child. And, like, I remember, like, I just think of, like, how they were brought up, like, the way his childhood was very traumatic, and that's why he turned out the way that he did. So, like, having compassion for the child in that person, and just, like, it helps with forgiveness, like, their innocence of a child before they had the trauma happen to them or whatever. Like, yeah, that's, like, just inner child healing, but, like, someone else's inner child.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is all the same anyway, right? Because we all have trauma. We're all forgiveness is self-forgiveness, really. Yeah. Beautiful. Do you have anything else you want to share on the whole topic that we maybe didn't cover that you feel like you want to express?
No, I think I just, like, the most important thing is recognizing, like, how the relationships, even if it's not romantic relationships, but, like, even friendships or whatever relationship in your life, like, if you just observe them and, like, how you are allowing yourself to be treated is, like, how you're treating yourself. So it's just, like, you're only going to get a reflection of what you're allowing. Like, if you're allowing like shitty behavior from somebody else, like that, you are doing that to yourself because you're allowing that person in your energy.
You think you deserve it.
Yeah, you think you deserve it, and you continue to allow this person in your energy. So it's actually taking full responsibility for like how you're being treated, because if you're not standing up for yourself or walking away, then you are part of the like the problem, or just like not blame, but it's like you taking responsibility for your own energy and your own reality. And it all it takes is a different choice in your own energy, and like you can only do like control what you're doing. So like if someone else is treating you in a shitty way, then if you're not doing anything about it, then you're perpetuating it yourself. So yeah, just looking at the relationships in your life, and taking responsibility for that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And this reminds me of something that I just said on a client call the other week, is that people like, there's sometimes this illusion that people think, oh, if I have a really good self-concept, nothing bad is ever going to happen to me again. And everybody's going to treat me, everybody's going to love me and, you know, treat me amazingly, which is not, I mean, there is an element of you're not going to magnetize as much of that stickiness anymore. Just like I said in my story earlier, like I don't really experience anything low quality anymore. But the thing is also like your perception shifts so much that people who have a great self-concept and great self-worth, when they are met with somebody who doesn't treat them well, like they just don't give it any energy or attention. They just move on.
Yeah.
And it doesn't turn into the cycle of like, oh, what does this mean about me? And how can I convince them to treat me differently? And that energy of like trying to change it and, you know, making it so big and so important actually perpetuates it, rather than when you're, you know, when you're just moving on from it because you don't see it as a big deal, because it's not, then you attract more of the things that you actually do want and do deserve as well.
Yeah, I find like triggers are always just a lesson. Like it's always just because it wouldn't bother you if it wasn't already something within you.
If you didn't agree on some level.
Yeah, so it's just triggers are just showing us our own stuff always. It's always a mirror. Like anytime you're triggered, it's like, okay, what is this belief? Like, what do I believe about myself? Like, where am I treating myself in this way that's being mirrored back? Like, yeah, it's always an opportunity for growth.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. I don't know how much time you still have, but I was wondering if anybody had any questions, they can maybe, I'm open to it. I don't know if you are.
Yeah, I'm open to it.
Okay, let's see if anybody asks anything, but also for anybody who's watching from my side, make sure you check out Hillary's Instagram and her podcast, The Divine Hangout, which I think is such a cool name as well, because that's what it is, right? I will link both of your Instagram accounts below.
Thanks.
And
yeah, I'm posting every day for a year.
Yeah, which is really amazing.
It's
really
it's
done.
I'm 1 month in. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. It's good.
That's commitment.
Yeah,
that's really good. I have noticed it actually. I've committed to on YouTube uploading once a week, which seems like an endeavor for me. So far, it's like it's working. Sometimes even twice a week, but nice. Once a week is my commitment to actually do it. I mean, YouTube is not by far not my main thing. I have a lot of other work, so it's like,
yeah, totally.
But it's paying off. It's good. I might upload this one to, if you're okay with it, to YouTube also. I feel like there was so much juice and value in this. Like we have to spread this. Amazing. So everybody who watched this live, thank you all for being here with us. If you're watching the replay, please leave us a comment. Let us know what your main takeaway was, if anything really landed with you, and yeah, would love to hear your thoughts, I'm sure.
Totally. Thank you.
What a joy.
Yay.
Lots of love to you.
Love you.
Oh, there's a question.
Oh.
Shall we answer this real quick?
Yep.
How can you tell the difference between paranoia and intuition? As in, you're not just avoiding a relationship because of your wounding. That's a good question. What are your thoughts, Hillary? Do you want to start?
Yeah, my first thought is how it feels in your body. So getting really still. And I mean, I don't know if this is like cliche or annoying, but like meditation really helps you to get more in tune with how things feel in your body. And intuition feels like clarity. It feels like respect and love, and feels like you're making a choice that feels more aligned. It will feel in your body more aligned. Paranoia would be more fear-based. So are you in your head about it? You know, I mean, that is a tough one, especially if like, because I know that it's like sometimes people have a pattern of running away from something that might be good for them because they're, you know, in a fear of from their past. So but yeah, I think getting still and taking time to yourself and maybe journaling it out of like, what are your fears, and is this person, like, whatever the thing is that's making you feel that way, like, is it feeling a fear in your body, or is it like, is it something they're doing or whatever, like it's hard to say, but like maybe journal out what the issue is, and you could maybe uncover some beliefs of like, is this something that I'm doing, like in my own head? Is this something that I'm doing, or like are they presenting red flags? Like, trusting yourself. So yeah, I would say like getting still and listening to your inner guidance on that. With meditation, 5 minutes a day will help you to develop that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great answer. Something similar for me. So, like you said, intuition is very clear. It's not frantic. Fear is frantic. But the big thing is that I would say is do your shadow work. If you know your patterns and your reactions and your triggers really well, then you can also tell when you're in your wound versus when you are, you know, when you are actually just creating a story. You can tell that pretty clearly if you're, you know, if you have this awareness and you have done this work to integrate these pieces within yourself. I also agree on the body, and to me that comes less through meditation. Meditation is more for me about like consciousness, conscious awareness, keeping the ego in check. I would suggest more somatic work and, you know, really working on the nervous system, because essentially when you are, if you're, here's the thing, right? And I'm actually currently moving through this myself, so I can speak to this from personal experience, because as I said, I'm consciously currently choosing to stay single, and I am dating, right? And I am like dating very slowly. It's like a process of like, I constantly ask myself, what do I feel safe with? Like, do I feel safe to kiss this person? Do I like not, and it's not about the other person, because the people that I've been calling in have been pretty amazing. It's about my level of safety and what my nervous system can handle. And where does that come from? It comes from wounding. It comes from, you know, the things that I've experienced. So I'm just really conscious about like what I feel safe with. And through that, I'm actually stretching my nervous system to get like to feel safe with more and more and more and more. And so through that process, what happens is when I then meet a person who is safe and who is aligned, my system will not reject it, because I have already integrated that and I have created that safety within myself. Because the question of like, okay, am I avoiding a relationship because of my wounding, or am I avoiding a relationship maybe because it's not right for me? If you have sort of like really done the work to heal yourself and to integrate your shadows and to expand your nervous system and to do all of this work, then you're not going to feel fearful with a person that is safe and that is meant for you. That is just simply impossible, because what I'm experiencing now as well, like I do notice a bit of like avoidant patterns, but I can tell that it's coming from me and that it has nothing to do with the other person. And that just comes with a lot of work that I have done on myself. So I know that's the work that I have to do myself, so I can be available for a love that I desire eventually. And, you know, and I know that it's me and that it's not the other person. So that's kind of what I would add to that as well.
Good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. Amazing. Okay. Or your man just started following me.
Love it.
Okay, my love, that was so fun. I
Oh,
will
there's
tag
another
all
one.
the things
There's
below.
another
Yeah,
one.
let's just leave it here. We're not doing
Okay,
a coaching session,
sounds
so
good.
and yeah. If anybody has any questions or wants to dive deeper in anything, my DMs are open. I don't know if yours are open,
Yeah,
but mine are
absolutely.
always open. And yeah, let us know your things in the comments below. And I need some food, so yeah, lots of love. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for doing this with me.
Yay! Thanks for coming.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.